So I'm a single mom. I have an autistic son. He is 7. And we just moved to Georgia from California. He started school earlier this year in January. He hadn't been to school before that. He was nonverbal until sometime last year when he just started to speak 6 different languages randomly. He used to make like noises and stuff. Might say one word or something. For a long time, he said apple and that's it. But he literally went like so long without saying anything. They just made like sounds. You couldn't have a conversation with him, nothing. Last October, we moved into a hotel, and before that, we was living in my car for a year. And I used to hate taking my son to school because when I would come pick him up, I could tell he had been crying all day. Like he had dry tears on, it would be poo all over him, all down his leg and stuff. You could just tell nobody was like watching after him. This is while he was doing his IEP at his first school. So they sent him to another special education school. And when he got to that school, I could tell something was wrong with him. Even though he had his favorite paraprofessional with him, I could tell that there were certain things that she was not doing with him. And sometimes she would not be at work when she was supposed to be. For me, it was like, it's important for him to have a stable set of consistent people around him over and over and over again. He was in first grade last year. Now he's in second grade. And now we live in Georgia. And my son is completely different than the way he was earlier this year when he started school when he was in California. In the school in California, he was the only black kid. There was no other black kids. It was Indian kids, white kids, Asian kids, no black kids. He was the only black kid in both schools. We moved to Georgia. There's more minorities. There's more Hispanics. And you would think because we was in California, it would be more Hispanics in that particular area we was living in, but it wasn't. We lived in Pleasanton, California, which was a predominantly white area. And there was a time I could afford living there. And so I just stayed there because it was very familiar for my son. He just knew the area. I didn't want to move him out of it too quickly. So when people found out I was in a hotel and I started a GoFundMe to get more money to help me stay in the hotel, people was like, well, why don't you move? And I was like, I don't want to move my son right now. It's just too much moving going on. He needs some type of stability. Now that he's in Georgia, my son is completely different. My son be ready to go to school this morning. Dude had on his clothes, his shoes, and his backpack and was like, school, where's the school bus? I'm ready to go. He was not like that in California. He's only been going to school in Georgia for a month. And from January until July, my son was never like super excited about going to school because he was going to school in California. He was the only black kid. And because my son barely speaks, he was unable to say to me how uncomfortable he was at the school he was at. I ripped him out of that last school so quickly because he kept coming home from school with injuries. And the school would claim that it was another autistic kid. Like one time he had a cut on his forehead. One time he came home from school, he had this big ass knot on his forehead. Another time he had a large cut on his neck that was bleeding. I was like, you mean to tell me an autistic child did this to him? Anyway, he ain't had them kind of problems here in Georgia. We done had a whole nother different set of problems. I love this for him. Like, as long as he happy. That's all I really care about at the end of the day. As long as he happy. But here's what I want to say about self-concept and embodiment, which is what I've been teaching lately, which is something that I'm finally starting to feel comfortable with teaching full force. Of course, for years, I've always wanted to teach it. If you've been watching my content, you've seen me post like manifestation videos sometimes and positive content and letting people know they do have more control over their lives and they think they're not sitting here running on autopilot. One thing I did with my son is I imagined what kind of kid I wanted him to be for him. I just thought about it, I wanted him to speak more clearer. I wanted him to speak up for himself. I wanted him to show his talents and what he was genuinely interested in. I just wanted him to be a better student, a better kid across the board. And I just kept thinking of him being that way. And eventually he's turned into this kid. And it seemed like overnight, he suddenly like became this kid that is like exactly what I've been imagining him being in my mind. Like, he used to cry a lot, and I guess it's because he couldn't express himself. He used to cry a lot. He seemed like a little melodramatic, and I'm like, hold on. Let's find another way to deal with our feelings, bruh. So my son is like doing really good. Yeah, I'm glad I made the move from California to Georgia.